Today, my guest is Declan Williams, and I will let Declan introduce himself.
Hello, I am Declan Williams. I'm a grade 11 student at St. Thomas More in Burnaby. I've been an active volunteer in community groups around where I live. Notably, I'm a member of the British Columbia Youth Parliament. As well, I've volunteered with the New Westminster Police Soccer Camp and other community groups.
Declan, what do you find the most challenging in today's education and workforce and making the career decision?
Definitely the lack of education is a major part of it. In the past, there were lots of career fairs, but as time has gone on, the disconnect between education and the workforce seems to be growing. There's not much of a connection between local businesses and high schools trying to transfer people over to the workforce. It's very much focused more on lower education, going up to university and higher education, instead of actually connecting people to potential jobs in the future.
So do you have an opportunity to go to someone in the school, for example, and say, hey, I'm interested in becoming a politician or a plumber or crane operator? Do you have a person like this where you can go and ask them questions?
Definitely. There are lots of people to talk to in terms of getting the education to do those jobs, but the actual connecting people to maybe get interview or talk to someone who works in the industry, the opportunities are very limited.
How do people do that? How do you and your classmates connect with future employers? Are you even thinking about it?
We're all thinking about it. We all want to find jobs, but just the way the employment market is looking, we're all really struggling. I've personally applied to 40 different jobs over the past 3 months. All of them are auto response emails that either never go anywhere or just tell me that I have not been selected. So I'm not really sure what's up with that. It's either oversaturation of the job market or they're just not hiring or any other number of reasons. I just got my lifeguarding certification recently. And so I've been trying to find work as a lifeguard, but all of the jobs either aren't hiring or the applications just don't seem to go through.
What are your hopes after you graduate?
Ideally, I'd like to go to Simon Fraser University to study political science and then go to law school at UBC.
Very cool. That is a very ambitious goal. How did you arrive to this career goal?
A few years ago, I read an article about how the vast majority of politicians are lawyers. And so my ultimate goal is ideally to become a MLA or MP. And this seems like the best path to go forward with that. I'm also very passionate about law, so it fits quite well.
That is quite unusual to have such a clear understanding of your career path. So you said you've read the article, but do you have anyone in your circle, in your network that is a politician?
Not really. I've always been interested in politics. I never really had anyone to teach me about it as much. I'm definitely one of the more politically active people in my family, but it's really more self-driven than anything else.
Certainly seen your resume, and yes, Declan, your volunteer activity is impressive. Way to go. How did you know this is something that interests you? Did you start notice your strength and skills in certain grade? How did it start?
Well, I've never been much of a math person. I'm not much skill in that area, but I've always been really good at English classes and logic. And so perfect mix of those two is the law of writing, reading. And once I realized that I was quite good at that, I started volunteering with opportunities that involved those aspects, and it just kind of took off from there.
Do most people in your class do the same thing? They kind of know where they want to go. They have the plan. They have everything sorted. Is that the case?
It really varies. There are some people who have a very clear direction in mind. They know what school, what major, what degree. Other people are still figuring it out, which I know is more normal at this age. As time goes on, more and more people are starting to figure out what direction they want to take, but it's still very varied at this point.
What are you using? Any platforms, education planner? What comes to mind?
Education planner from BC government has been a great help. I'm seeing myself and more of my classmates are joining websites like Indeed and LinkedIn to start networking. I know 2 of my classmates have gotten jobs using those tools, so it's a really great help now. Not as many companies and recruiters are going up to you and asking for resumes anymore. It's much more based around online presence and just cold emailing people.
Love hearing that. I think that resumes will be the thing of the past very soon, because not everyone who's skilled is a good writer and can do a good resume. So it's kind of a weird way to get people in. How did you learn about LinkedIn? Like, did you take a class at school? Did you just figure it out? You have someone helped you?
My career life education teacher brought in someone who worked at the school in the marketing department. I'm sure there's another job title I'm forgetting, to show us how to set up a proper LinkedIn page, what aspects of your resume to put on, skills, job experience, volunteering experience, and how to make your LinkedIn page more and more attractive. And that is actually what set me off on starting to build a LinkedIn page. So it's been really interesting to learn how to use that.
You've mentioned that there's not much connection between the education and the workforce. So if you go to a career fair, what do you see? Who's there then? Isn't that supposed to be the industry?
It's really more educational institutions. So there's a lot of presence from UBC, SFU, Quantum Polytechnic. They're all advertising trying to apply, but there's not as much presence from local businesses looking for teenagers to work. It's just non-existent at this point.
Have you worked previous summer, or this is your first year looking for summer job?
I looked for a summer job last year, and after applying quite a bit, could not find anything. I think last year my record was 80 applications in the months leading up to summer with 0 success. This year I'm on track to reach that, but no sign of any job yet.
Do you ever go to businesses in person and hand your resume just without, sending an email?
I've tried that once and did not go as well as I would have hoped. They really just redirected me back to their online applications. No one really wants to have to deal with the physical resume and keeping track of it. And even if they do take it, then it probably ends up in the garbage or recycling. So it's really more based around the online presence at this point.
Good point. And yes, it is very frustrating. So wanting to be a politician, have you ever considered looking for roles that are related to what you want to do? Let's say, would you sweep Peter's Julian office, or would you, I don't know, take garbage out in the evenings in their office? Have you ever considered anything like this?
I have considered it. I've tried to look for those kind of opportunities. Most of the time, they end up being volunteering, which I've done volunteering as like an office manager for different federal candidates, but no specific jobs on a long-term basis.
Yeah, well, I'm impressed that you've tried, because typically that's such a good way to get your foot in the door. You start with anything that's closely related to what you want to do. Let's say if you want to be a musician, you just, sell records at the store. You get yourself into the industry, you get yourself immersed. But to be honest with you, Declan, you're already so much ahead. Your volunteer experience is excellent, and you are doing so many things that I'm sure will get you closer to your goal. If you had a magic wand this summer, what would you wish happened? What kind of job would you ideally love to have?
Definitely a lifeguard. I went through almost all the levels of training required to be a lifeguard. I'm qualified to become an assistant lifeguard as of right now. If I had the magic wand, that's definitely where I'd want to go to. It seems like a great job, flexible hours, and great pay. So that's definitely the magical ending, hopefully.
And you get a nice tan over the summer. How much of an influence your parents, you feel, had on you in making that career decision?
Quite a bit. My mom was the first person to introduce me to politics as well as the job market. My first job was actually working for her, sweeping the floors, and then as a tutor. Her influence on how I view work has been very positive. She was my first boss, so it really set me off on a positive path. It's helped me hopefully get a job in the future.
What do you think she's done well in her job that, translated into your skills as well?
Definitely perseverance side of how she works. Oftentimes she works late into the night. I've been there for a few of those sessions, and she is just an absolute machine with how she pushes through things. Since she works in education, she's working with kids probably more than any person should. And just the incredible level of sticking to the task she's working at when she's absolutely exhausted is definitely an inspiration to me.
When it comes to your peers, do you feel that parents or caregivers also have much of an influence on what they do? Or are they more influenced by social media, celebrities, local businesses? I don't know. What influences today's youth?
It really varies depending on the person. Lots of people definitely have a positive parental influence when it comes to what job they want to go into. Other people are more focused on social media influence. I've talked to people whose plan out of high school is to become a TikToker and stuff like that, which is an idea. And obviously that area is growing, but it really depends on the person and how involved parents are in where their child maybe is going to university or going straight into the workforce. It really depends on the level of involvement and just that child's preferences.
I'm not sure if you can make money on TikTok in Canada. I know you can in the US. Canadians are kind of sour about it. You don't make much money off it.
I heard you can't make much.
I also know people who have started a TikTok and they got really big and they moved to LA and now they do, their anchor for some show and they're in LA right now just because of the TikTok.
Very fun.
You never know. Speaking of youth, again, I want to dig into your brain a little bit and understand the situation on the career decision piece and how youth makes career decision. Do you feel like there are people in your circle, your peers, who have no idea what they want to do and they're just floating? They have no understanding on what kind of college they want to go to, whether they just want to take a break and work. Do you see people like this?
Definitely. I've talked to the academic counselors at my school, and they've mentioned that there's usually a time period towards the end of grade 11 and early grade 12, which they call the wake-up period. It's when people who have been hanging on, not really planning for a particular goal, finally start to realize that if you're going to university, applications are closing soon, you need to start planning way forward. It really depends on where people are in that stage. In terms of not having any plan at all, vast majority do have some kind of plan in place, whether that be straight into workforce, university, gap year. But it's really dependent on what stage of high school you're in. It really depends, like how involved parents are, what their preferences for work are. Hopefully they'll figure out what they want to do soon enough. But the vast majority of people do have some kind of plan. So it really just remains to be seen what they're going to do.
Let's say you do not become a lawyer and you do not go into politics. What would be your plan B?
Plan B would definitely be something in the corporate world. I've always been a bit of a natural leader when it comes to working in groups. So working as a manager in any kind of field would definitely be my plan B.
Okay. And you have quite a bit of experience of working as a leader and, guiding folks. Where does that leadership come from? How did you learn it? Is it your natural talent or are you doing something to develop it?
Outside of volunteering, my high school has been a major influence on how I've seen myself grow as a leader. When I was much younger, I used to be a very shy person, but my school has definitely increased my level of confidence with myself, and they've given me lots of opportunities to increase confidence and leadership abilities.
What is leadership for you? What does it mean?
It's not so much being the loudest person in the room, but someone who's able to support the different members of your group to do their best work. You don't need to be the first and the last one to talk and always be offering up points. It's more encouraging the people around you to speak and bring forward their ideas.
So powerful. Declan, what kind of job you would never do in your life? You're like, this is not for me. I'm never doing this. Is there a job like this or career like this?
I could never see myself being a mathematician. That's not in the cards for me.
At least you are aware of your strong and not so strong sides.
Yeah, anything math or accounting related, that's not a path that I'm prepared to go into.
I hear you. Although it can be such a fantastic career for some people and they love doing the numbers and they could do them all day long. I want to go back to the job search. What other ways people are looking for jobs? Because I'm looking for a job. My way of looking for a job may be very different from what, grade 11 folks are doing. So what are the tools that you're seeing around you?
Apart from LinkedIn and Indeed and just online applications in general, a lot of people are going through family members. So like I had my first job working at my mom's business. Lots of people either have the parents recommend them to a family friend. One of my classmates got a job at a pizza store through a parent's recommendation to their former coworker. And it's just the offline backdoor connections that really are helping people to get jobs at my age.
Pretty much networking.
Networking in person.
Networking is powerful. Do you think networking is important for a politician or future politician?
Absolutely. Connections that you build at every stage are very important. doing my best to talk to people who are hopefully going into this field the same as me. And hopefully that's going to pay off at some point in the future, whether that be as a job or maybe as my first candidacy in a few years. It really depends.
Very cool. You know what? I'm hoping that in several years I can pull out this very old video and be like, hey, you know what? I have interviewed Declan Williams. That was the day.
I'm looking forward to it.
Declan, you've mentioned that you wanted to become an MLA. Is this kind of the Northern Star for you? Or again, in a perfect world, if you had the perfect job and a perfect career, what would that be?
MLA is definitely the Northern Star for me. The absolute dream would be to be a premier of BC. That would be like the absolute end goal. Apart from that, working in or around politics is really the main goal for me. Whether that could be as support staff, as a clerk. It really depends.
Have you met any of the politicians, apart from the local MLAs, that are in the community and are meeting with people all the time?
I've had the privilege to meet quite a few MLAs in BC, as well as a few federal MPs. I've had wonderful conversations with the Shadow Minister for Education in BC, Lynn Block, who I had a wonderful conversation with about education in BC, which has really helped increase my appreciation for how government plays a role in education.
It certainly does. As a politician, what would be your platform if you were to run tomorrow?
Definitely higher focus on youth and teens becoming adults. The number of supports in recent years has been decreasing. A lot of public schools in BC are vastly underfunded and often have problems with violence and just general understaffing. My main platform on top of the standard party platform would be to increase education funding and then have a higher focus on BC's independence in terms of our natural resources and food production.
That's a good platform. I would certainly consider voting for you, Declan.
Thank you.
Do you feel like in today's climate, being a politician is a good career? Do you feel like there are a lot of people who will not like you? How do you feel about that?
Having people not like you is always going to come with the territory. Being a politician, no one gets 100% of the votes. No one has 100% approval rating. No matter what you do, someone's going to dislike you for it. And of course, that's a scary thought as someone who just hates you for the simple reason of how you voted. But on the other side of that, it is also, I think, in the age of where AI is taking over lots of jobs, politics is not going anywhere for the foreseeable future. We're not going to have, hopefully, not going to have a computer taking over government. So I think it's important work, and it's work that isn't going to be disappearing anytime soon.
Do you think any of the jobs will be taken by AI and computers and robotics?
Definitely data entry jobs are going to be on the decline. I've tried using ChatGPT to do that, and it's very easy to do in a matter of seconds what would normally take a human being maybe hours, if not days. So apart from data entry, I think accounting and just other jobs where it's transferring data from paper to computer are going to be on the decline.
What is a better way to connect with your generation?
Definitely social media is a great way to connect. More and more people are finding opportunities, especially for volunteering online. But the best thing you can do to kind of have a captive audience is advertise in high schools. We walk past those billboards every day, and a lot of them are empty and have nothing on them except ads for school play. But if say Fresh Slice were to put up an ad looking for cooks to work, I can guarantee that they'd have job offers by the end of the day.
Speaking of social media, let's say when you're looking for a job or when you're looking for volunteering opportunities, do you check on companies' profile on social media, or how do you engage with employers and businesses on social?
I don't check as much social media. A lot of local businesses either don't have the funding or time to have a constant social media presence. Either check LinkedIn, or I've tried going to businesses in person. I mentioned earlier that I handed a resume to someone. While that didn't go well, I got a much better idea of what business looked like and how they functioned. So it's really more the in-person connections that are going to be important.
Absolutely. But do you think that social media presence is important for businesses? Does their presence affect young generation's decision on, hey, I want to work for this company, or no, never, I will not do that?
Absolutely. If if business does have a social media presence, if that presence is negative, for example, not many young people who are much more climate conscious today would ever consider working for a company like Shell or Exxon just because of ethical concerns. But if a business's social media presence is positive, then like small town stores that happen to have an Instagram page, people would definitely, with that positive connection in their brain, would much more consider working for them.
I fully want to highlight the issue of connecting youth with employment and also the career decision path. How do people make their career decisions? You know, who do they ask? Where do they go? Is there anything that I have not asked you?
In terms of things you haven't asked me, definitely the connection between how youth perceive what working at a company will be like, more so just from the social media presence, but just not knowing what that job potentially looks like. They've heard the company name or they've heard the owner's name before, but maybe they haven't been to the business or they have never heard the owner talk. Just having a connection from the owner's side to potentially a future employee would go a long way to helping youth enter the workforce and choose an owner's company.
So do you mean like knowing, hey, how your usual typical day goes or what are the typical tasks?
Exactly. That, and then just taking a person through what a typical day of work at that company would look like from start to finish, how the experience is, what the duties are, what the pay is, and just different aspects that would potentially entice someone to actually go into that field.
That is very important. And I'm going to ask a question that's I'm asking the whole generation and you're just one person, so I understand that's just your perspective. But when it comes to young employees, what is important for you? Even if it's summer employment, what matters?
Definitely flexibility of hours. Not many teenagers, especially those who are still in high school and early university, can commit to a full-time job. We have classes, homework. Some of us have to take care of siblings. So flexibility of hours and then reasonable pay in the age of hyperinflation is definitely important to a lot of people.
Well, Declan, I do hope that you find the job. I have no doubt that you will. And I'll keep my eyes and ears open for you as well. And this is the power of networking. Like when you say something out loud, the world hears, and then you never know from where that connection will come, from where that opportunity or the job will show up. I admire how you think about your career and just how determined you are, Declan. I'm totally seeing a bright future ahead of you. And again, I'm just being very honest here. So wishing you all the best.
Thank you.